Hello everyone, I'm Pacôme Révillon, President of Euroconsult. As you're certainly all aware, the ground segment component is a critical piece of any space-based connectivity solution. And in the update of our market intelligence research on ground segment dynamics that we just released, we've highlighted the transformation that is taking place and is required to enable the future of that space-based connectivity. So to exchange on this matter during this very busy World Satellite Business Week, I am delighted to have the opportunity to exchange with you, Don Claussen, CEO of ST Engineering iDirect. So first, thanks so much for finding some time in your busy schedule to deal with some of that.
Sure, and thanks for taking time as well. I know it's a very busy week.
As I like to say, I believe that the satellite connectivity, SATCOM industry has entered very much into its terabit era in this decade. So would like first to hear your prospect on some of those market trends driving your business vision.
Sure. I think the largest trend right now is there's going to be so much capacity on orbit that it's changing the economics. So there are more entrants into the satellite communications area that normally weren't there. So as capacity goes up and price goes down, our traditional customers have more users and we have new users. So I think that's the largest change in the market, which is really driving us towards more flexible solutions that scale.
And as we find in our research, I think today, just to give some ideas, the ground component is about hundreds of gateways, obviously, around the world, and likely now over 6 million user terminals servicing a highly diversified user community. So can you come back on the role of that ground infrastructure and what it does?
Sure. Without the ground infrastructure, obviously, we can't bring consumers into the network. So it's critical that we design our next generation networks on the ground that mirror what's going on in space. Flexible payloads are allowing the operators to move power or resources around their constellations, and we need to do the same. So we need to provide the flexibility and capability for operators not only to change where their capacity is in space, but be able to be flexible in the gateways so that they can provide more access or better access in any given region at any time as users come in and out of the network and utilize their services.
In a presentation I recently gave, I described the stake for SATCOM organization within maybe 3 years or so as to be software defined or not to be. So what is kind of your vision for that journey?
I think we have to be software defined. If you look at the capital requirements for the operators as we build out gateways or the larger ground infrastructure, we have to be cloud-based, we have to be virtualized. Somebody mentioned the other day in one of the panels that the satellite industry is going to have Moore's Law applied to it. Every 18 months we're going to have a refresh. I don't know if we go that quickly, but the refresh rate will have to change as we get more users on the network and we move into more of the IoT space and connect terrestrially. So we're committed to virtualization and moving to cloud infrastructures. I think people will see in our next generation product lines that that's exactly where we're moving towards.
And coming to this very aspect and looking at ST Engineering iDirect, can you further describe on where you stand today, some of those progress and some of your next priorities?
Sure. So we've done some proofs of concept on digital interfaces and also virtualization. That is informing how we build our next generation product. We have various milestones throughout the year and through next year. We will be doing another demonstration at Diffie Plug Fest at the end of the month, which will show our progression with the digital interface. And we continue to do proofs of concept with Microsoft, showing our cloud-based infrastructure. So right now, we're still in a bit of a planning phase for our network management system and how that's going to be accessed from the cloud. So I think what the industry will see over the course of the next quarter and into the first half of next year, more milestones through proofs of concept.
As a leader, more specifically in the defense SATCOM market, and there's a lot of emphasis, obviously, at the moment on sovereignty, defense, security. Can you tell us more on some of the directions of that user community?
Sure, that community is moving very quickly. If we go back 20 years, to the turn of the century, it was very bespoke, right? Mil-Satcom systems across the board. And then as we got into the early 2000s, there was ComSatcom, still operated by the Department of Defense or MODs worldwide. And now we're seeing a blending of that, where they want to take advantage of all the capacity that's putting up in the commercial networks that have been put together by the operators and the service providers over the last 20 years, while they still have their bespoke networks. So I think all of this folds into what we're doing commercially: virtualization, cloud-based infrastructure, multiple waveforms, multiple orbits connecting terrestrially. So I think we're going to see the defense industry really accelerate over the next 5 or 6 years into moving more commercial networks and using the bespoke systems when they really need it.
That's interesting. And taking into account what we've just discussed, in just a few words, so how would you describe the future and just what you expect to happen in just the next few years?
From an industry perspective, I think there's more consolidation. I think we would all agree with that. I think what's really going to be interesting, and we spoke about this on the panel yesterday, is do we really adopt standards? I think as we adopt standards, which we have to do for the scale that's going to be required with all these new users coming into the network, I think you'll see more collaboration. So consolidation, collaboration, and then really rallying around standards like the mobile wireless operators have. Once we do that for people such as iDirect, we're going to have to really focus on how do you provision your network? How do you allow users to roam through your network, even though they may be on somebody else's network? And I think we really need to take a page out of the book that the telcos have done or have already written for us to do that. The business model's there, the know-how's there. We just have to be serious about adopting it.
So it's likely about innovation, collaboration, execution, and making that future happen.
It's all of those things. There's 3 pillars that I released internally recently. First is standards-based, which it's in our DNA. We have a long history of that. The second part of that is operator and service provider focus, because the focus is going back to the operators and service providers. And then the final one is collaboration. That's with our current partners, new partners, and people that we normally would compete with. There's room for all of us. If we don't collaborate, we will never have a standards-based satellite communication system. So that's where we're focused.
Thanks so much, Don, for having shared those thoughts, and wishing you a great World Satellite Business Week.
Thank you.